And you're going to have a few different careers. This is what all the textbooks are telling us right now. You're going to have 2 or 3, 4 careers in your life.
Welcome to the podcast, Jane. Super excited to have you here today as my guest.
Thank you so much, Anna, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm very curious to learn more about you, your background. If you can share a bit about who you are, what you've been doing, your experience, the industry that you've been into, and for how many years. And if you also could share, like, what's that one thing that people wouldn't guess easily about you? That would be fun to know.
So in terms of what I do now, if you had to kind of put a label on me, I suppose you'd call me a career coach. And the way I describe it is that I help frustrated HR professionals to put themselves before their clients and find the role of their dreams. So I come at that as an ex-HR professional who spends a lot of their time looking after everybody else and then leaving themselves last. And then when you leave yourself to the end, you've got no energy left, and then you just never kind of end up focusing on yourself. So that's why I kind of help HR professionals in particular. But actually what I can do works across the board regardless of industry level, for sure. How I came about to this, really, I experienced redundancy twice in 1 year. So this is something that's really kind of prevalent in today's market. So a lot of people are experiencing redundancy. Some people are experiencing it for the first time. I'd always experienced it kind of on the other side of the table. So I was always the person who was kind of leading the restructure or the redundancy process that was exiting people out of the business. And I've probably exited, at least 1,000 people out of,
Wow.
I was working for an airline for British Airways at the time. And I knew at some point that would almost kind of come round towards me, because at some point that was going to land on my door. So I knew that was going to happen, and it did. And I used that as an opportunity to say, okay, I've been here kind of almost 20 years and I've had a great career. I've moved up around and I've got loads of experience. And then I moved out. I got headhunted for a role in a much smaller business as their head of training. And I went to do that role, and that role became redundant after 8 months. So within a year, I'd had 2 experiences of redundancy. Very, very, very different. The first one was very long, drawn out, quite slow. The second one was very fast. And what I found is when you're in a certain position, you end up being surrounded by people who are like you. So when I was in the job market, I was surrounded by a lot of people who were also in the job market. And they kind of saw me as the HR person in the room. So they would kind of naturally gravitate towards me with their CVs and some advice on LinkedIn and how to use it. And I just thought, I actually really like doing this. And I think I'm a little bit different from people who also do what I do, because I've been in the job market recently. I've also been on the other side of the recruitment table. So it's just kind of felt like a natural thing to sort of put all of those things together and kind of create a business. And I've never really looked back. It's kind of just over 2 years now. And I'm building up, which is really, really cool. So.
And that's great to have that courage to start something on your own.
Well, I think redundancy does that. It actually forces you to make a change, because the change is happening to you. There's that great thing, isn't it, which is like nothing exciting ever started in your comfort zone. It's like when you're in your comfort, and that's where I was when I was at BA. I was, I had an easy commute. My job was challenging. I had a difficult job, but because I knew the people, I knew the business, I knew how it worked. I knew how to get around it, and I was comfortable. And I kind of loved and hated that in equal measure. I loved it because it was like, I'm comfortable and I had this amazing social life, and I was out and doing stuff and being in parts of groups and speaking at conferences and things like that. And that was brilliant. But also I was like, I know I'm in my comfort zone, and I know I could do so much more. I know I'm playing it safe. That was the thing that I knew. So redundancy forces you out of that, and it forces you to look at yourself. It's really uncomfortable,
It
and
is.
being in that position just forces you to make a change. And what is the worst that can happen? Nothing. For sure.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what's one thing that unexpected about you that people wouldn't guess
Oh
easily?
yeah,
That
I
was a
didn't
trick
answer that
question.
question, did I? Um, so I took a sabbatical in 2015. I took 6 weeks out of the business. Took 6 weeks unpaid leave. It was always a kind of one of my bucket list things, which was to. So context is I love cooking. I'm quite a good cook. I can open the fridge and kind of see what's there and put something together based on the flavors and things like that. I am no good at desserts, at cakes, that kind of thing.
Oh, I
So I
love
thought, you know what, I
desserts.
want to go and learn something. So I took 6 weeks out and I went to Paris, which is where I used to live. So I know Paris, love Paris. I thought if I'm going to learn French patisserie, I'm going to do it in France. So I took 6 weeks out. I went to the Cordon Bleu in Paris and I got myself a diploma in patisserie. So I'm a dab hand at cakes, but I don't do it
Oh
too
my
many because
God.
they're so rich and I have to eat them if I make them.
Oh, now I'm hungry. I want some cookies and cakes. Yeah, that's definitely unexpected. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. um, so one part of our podcast and the series we've created, it's like me. But anyway, sounds fancy when you say we created. We have guests they see themselves as introverts. We have guests extroverts and a bit of both, the ambiverts. And I come from the perspective of how do you recharge your batteries? Like by yourself or reading a book or perhaps in groups. So on how do you see yourself?
It's interesting actually, because the last time I did Myers-Briggs, I was kind of a slap bang in the middle of introvert extrovert, and I think as I've gotten older, I've people are always very surprised because they see me as a huge extrovert, so they think that I am kind of way out at the ends of the continuum on the extrovert place. And the last time I did it in a team that I was in, and everyone was like, Jane, there's no way that you're there. And I'm like, yeah, I said, I come on, and it's a bit like, showtime. We come and we perform, and I see myself as an extroverted introvert, if that is such a thing, because it's almost like I can turn it on, and I think, if you're doing something like this, like a podcast, you have to put yourself out there. If you're running your own business, you have to put yourself out there, but you also have to be aware of how you recharge. And I think I like to recharge by doing different kinds of things. So before we were all kind of locked down and couldn't go out, I would do a lot of I was in a lot of groups, so I like to do amateur dramatics, and that is one way to be extroverted, but you can do it with a mask on, because when you're in a play or performing in a show, you're playing a character, you're not necessarily playing yourself. So it's a way of kind of recharging, because you're putting yourself out there, but it's not you that you're putting out there, you are channeling a character, which is a really interesting way of looking at it. I mean, since lockdown, I would like to say I've read more books than I have, but I haven't. I'm actually going away in a few days' time, and I've got a stack of books because we're going where there's no distractions. And I like reading, but I don't like being forced to read because it reminds me of school.
Oh yes, I get
I
that.
watch a lot of trash TV, so that is my way to kind of wind down. So I love nothing more than getting lost in a YouTube vortex of videos on various different things. My latest thing is this Italian nonnas that do cooking videos. So learning how to
Oh,
make
that's so nice.
all these Italian dishes from these Italian nonnas, and actually it's like a piece of living history, because I think one lady, it's like her, grandson or nephew or something is recording it. It's like, my God, he's like capturing, in the days gone by, we would write down recipes on cards. Well, now he's just capturing her doing it on video. It's incredible. So
That's
that's
so
my like switching off.
beautiful.
I just go to a YouTube.
And it remains also like a precious memory.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
I mean, it's like, can you imagine, like, I mean, because the Italian culture, it's so, food is, that's, so at the heart of the culture, that you've got your nonna who's showing you how to make it. That's lasts forever. That's just fantastic. Yeah. So my a YouTube vortex just to switch off. Yeah.
Beautiful.
How do you
So,
describe yourself, Anna? So
definitely an introvert. I've learned
yeah.
how to socialize and how to speak in public and how to all of this, but like especially after events, I need to set up some time to recharge by myself, either with a book or just naps, long naps. Definitely, I need my alone time.
Yeah, it's true. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because people think it's like, are you kind of introverted or extroverted? But I know Myers-Briggs calls it introversion or extroversion. So it's not like, are you kind of out or in? It's like, where do you get your energy from?
Exactly, yeah. What is energizing, what is draining, understanding
Yeah.
where your boundaries are, and being okay with those boundaries.
It's interesting. It's always the party thing, isn't it? There was always kind of the way I explain it when I work with clients. It's like, how do you feel when you're going to a party? And it's like, I always feel like, oh God, I can't be bothered. And then I'm like the last person there. So
Oh,
that's
yes.
like my extroversion. And then other times when I'm at work events, I'm kind of like, okay, let's go. And then I'm sitting on the tube when we could get, on the tube on the way home thinking, oh God, I'm exhausted. That's why I'm an introverted extrovert, because I think I kind of do both. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating because like one thing that I do my best to bring in this podcast and the YouTube channel is to show examples of also introverts who've learned those skills like social skills, interacting, conversation. Because like for me, just like a chit chat, not chit chat, how do you call it? A small talk or just like
Yeah.
um I understand its role and its purpose, and learning how to do that, it's also a skill that can be
Yeah.
learned,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's true. My husband is a real introvert, and he hates that kind of, he's fine when he's very comfortable with people, but like a room of complete strangers, he's like, oh, I can't stand this chit chat thing. And I'm like, oh, come on.
It's not so bad after you get the hang of it. Cool. So, shall we get into the questions that we have for
Yes.
today? Beautiful.
Let's.
So, today we're going to be discussing a bit about the recruitment industry. And so, what is, given your experience in this field, so what is something that you wished you knew when you went into this industry?
So the thing that my game plan when I left BA was, I was my aim then was to find another job, and I actually went to a lot of recruiters. I thought, this is how you get a job at the level I'm in business. So I went to see a lot of recruitment consultants, thinking that they were going to be like the key to me finding a job, and they were going to work in partnership with me. Because when I'd been on the other end of recruitment consultants, so as a client, they would always talk to me about how they were so proud of their applicant experience. And I thought, okay, this is great. So I went to those people as an applicant, and I found that the experience was horrendous. And then somebody else who was a recruiter had a very candid conversation with me and said, you know what, Jane, you think this is what it's going to be like you're a client and you're going to be wined and dined, and they're going to keep you updated on the job market every week and what's happening and what they've got in and why they haven't put you forward. She goes, but the reality is you don't pay me. So you as the job hunter don't pay the recruiter. The business who has engaged the recruiter pays the recruiter. So that's who they give their attention to. So that really surprised me when I was kind of out in the market. I also thought it was a little bit short-sighted, because I thought, okay, if ever I am, one of the things that I did in my last job at BA was looked at the preferred supplier list for recruiters at senior level. And I thought, okay, the experience that I've had with you and you and you and you is pretty poor. If I'm ever looking at my preferred supplier list again, you're not on it. So I thought that was a little bit short-sighted of those recruiters in particular. But yeah, that really surprised me, because that's how I thought I was going to get a job, having left the comfort of British Airways.
Yeah. And how have you dealt with that reality check in the end of the day?
Well, it's interesting, because the role that I was headhunted for was through a recruiter. So then I have like this completely different experience, which is somebody who is calling me up, having a conversation with me, telling me about the line manager, and it's the difference is that she's about to get paid by the company who's about to employ me. So she's kind of closing the deal. And I have no problem with people making money in that way. There's no problem. It's just that the experience that I had there, when someone is like, almost on the edge of making a commission versus the other people, was vastly, vastly different. So I think that would be my learning. When I experienced redundancy again, that second time in a year, I steered clear of recruiters completely, unless they approached me about a certain opportunity. I was just like, that's my learning. That's what I learned about being in the job market. It's the recruiters are there for the people paying the wages. That's the businesses. They're not there for. I am just a piece of fodder for them to put forward. So as it wasn't part of my strategy the second time around. So that was a good learning for me, actually. And that helps me with my clients. So yeah.
And yeah, definitely you learn by doing and experiencing. And
Yeah.
what would be like if somebody's new to the industry, like let's say they're in their 20s deciding on which career to choose, what advice would you give them to start in the recruitment industry, if they were to choose it, of course?
Yeah, I mean, I think, do you mean as a recruiter?
Yes,
Or?
as a recruiter.
Yeah, I think I'd think about, a lot of the time you would be spent kind of hustling. I think people go into that because they think, oh, I'm really going to help people. It's like people go into HR because they think, I really like people and I really want to help people. And actually, they realize pretty soon that HR is there to do things to people that like the worst thing, like to lead a redundancy consultation, for example. There's some bits of that which is about talent development. Yes, it is. But like right now, what's HR doing? It's getting rid of people. That's what HR are doing. So they are kind of at the center of the table, but they're doing stuff that is nothing like helping people, unless you think helping people is setting people free from the confines of their contract. But I think in terms of recruitment in particular, it's a really hard industry to be in. It is a lot of so it's very target driven, organized. So you are targeted on the business that you bring into the recruitment firm. You're also targeted on how many people you get through first interview, second interview. You only get paid when you make a placement, and when that placement has passed their probationary period generally. So it's very high pressured. It's very target driven. You need to be kind of cold in a strange way. It's almost like you need to be cold and just target driven, target focused. And
And
that's
it's
not for
such the
everybody.
opposite, right? When you're fresh out of school, university, or high school, and you're considering coming with this understanding, yes, I'm gonna be here to help more people get their dream job. And then seeing this reality, that's why it's important to have shows like this or podcasts like this to break the glamour out of the jobs, to understand the reality, so that we're coming with a clear understanding of what's expected of us to be successful in the role.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's not like, you turn into if you're going to be working for a recruitment consultancy, you've got to find jobs that need filling. You've got to find people who trust you to fill their jobs. You've then got to find suitable candidates. So it's constant calling, whether it's, to bring in clients or to bring in applicants. And it's a lot of time spent talking to people. You've got to make split decisions on, am I going to put this person forward or not? You don't really have time to think about it. It's really quite immediate, high pressured kind of, have you got people for this role? Because when people always leave their recruitment decisions to the last minute, they never go, oh, I'm going to call a recruitment consultancy and I've got 3 or 6 months to find a job. It's like, oh yeah, we need this person in straight away kind of thing. It's like, get onto it. So it's really super high pressured, really high pressured. And it's about reading between the lines as well. So people will tell you what they're looking for. I think the skill of a recruiter is to get underneath that, to figure out exactly, is what you're saying correct, or is there something else here, or how can I complement the rest of your team, or actually what do I think you're really looking for? So it's kind of like a little bit like dating in that sense.
Dating and recruitment, same but different.
Yeah, it is. It's the same thing. You're trying to match one person with
Yes.
someone else, based on a whole heap of things. So yeah.
So what would it, if you were to advise a new person looking into changing this career or starting in this career, what would you advise them to, or what skills would you advise them to start building and becoming a master of those skills?
I think you need curiosity, because a lot of it is about asking questions, because you need to find out, you need to get under the skin of somebody. So they will present, a role or a job. You need to get under the skin of what it is that they really want. What's the problem that they need solving? Is it about now? Is it about, what about in 3 years' time when that problem's solved? Are you still looking to have this person? So I think a real curiosity and a real ability to ask questions is super important, and just kind of peel back the onion so that you'll provide a better solution, because you'll understand the problem better than your client. So I think really developing that curiosity. Yeah. You can only really do that through practice.
Exactly, yeah, because that would be like, how would you go about developing that curiosity skill?
Yeah, I mean, think about, when you're, so this is where some of the chit chat thing that we were talking about before kind of comes into play, which is like, how curious are you about people? So how curious are you about, you need to really, figure out from the client, but then also figure out from applicants as well, quickly. You might have a 5 or 10 minute phone call with somebody, and you need to have gleaned a whole heap of information for you to make a decision about, am I going to put this person in front of my client or not? Because the people you put in front of your client are representing you and your brand. So it kind of goes, you need to think about, am I going to stand behind this person, like in terms of, their skills, their experience, their personality, or not, because they're representing you. So you need to get the information that will help you decide super quick.
Definitely. And how would you get to that point? Is there a specific course you're taking, or just asking for help from other mentors or other professionals who've been there before, done it?
I would just start practicing the questions. So I just think, taking a course seems to be the answer to a lot of things nowadays, and I think it's
True.
not the answer. It is not the answer. Go, pick up doing something like you're doing is an amazing way to hone this skill, right? It's just really thinking about, and this is something that I say to my husband. It's, he kind of goes and he starts talking. I'm like, nobody cares. People love talking about themselves. So rather than you talking about you, have, and if you have to prep 5 questions that you always ask people, you ask questions of someone else. It's like when you go to any networking event, it's not about you telling people who you are. It's about you going and finding out. Do you remember those times when we could actually go to a
Oh, yes.
networking event? It's like, think of 5 questions that you're just going to ask people, and rather than responding with something about you, it's almost like your challenge. It's like a little challenge for yourself, is to everything that comes out of your mouth is a question. Even if you're asked a question, you can respond, and then it's like bang, it's straight back. So it's like the pressure is off you. But also the thing with asking questions is what you need to develop is the listening skills. So you need to develop the kind of, I'm just listening to the words that are going on, but also I'm looking to see kind of what is going on with the person. Do they sound, are the words, and we used to call it like the notes and the music, do they match? Is there congruence with what is being said, or are the words saying one thing and the facial expression saying another? And just kind of figuring this out. But it's just like asking questions, practicing the open questions, the who, what, why, when, where, how, and then the kind of, the sort of funneling it down into the sort of yes, no, because that's ultimately what you're doing, isn't it? You're extracting loads of information from people, and then you're funneling it. It's like, would you be interested in me putting you forward for this opportunity? Yes, that's a yes, no answer. So it's like really practicing that funneling technique. And coaching can help with that, because coaching is all about questions, asking
Definitely,
questions.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I feel it gives more practical advice on how to get better at this type of job, right? Because I did the recruiting part for a while, maybe 1 year and a half. And in the beginning, yeah, we received the formal training also for an airline. And then we had a big break because we weren't recruiting at that time. And then I moved to a different company and I had a brief training there, but that was it, like, was brief. So it was up to me to ask for help when I needed, and I didn't know how to ask for help. So to segue into my next question is like, how good were you at asking for help when you were in your 20s? Like, if we are to talk about the scale of 1 to 10, 1 you are bad and 10 you are amazing, where were you?
Not very good. I'm not very good at it now, actually, I have to say. I'm good at asking. I'm good at figuring out kind of what I need, but in terms of asking for help, I have a driver which is called like a Be Strong driver. So what that means is that I really struggle asking for help, because I feel like I need to kind of know all the answers. So I need to be, for me personally, I kind of need to be quite kind of not rock bottom, but there's a lot of pain I need to be experiencing before I will ask for help. So, I've just started working with a virtual assistant, because I'm kind of at that sort of breaking point with some stuff, which is like, I just need help. I've known I've needed help for a while, but I have really strong control needs as well. So it's like, I'm not sure if I want to let this go, kind of thing. But I mean, I'd be interested to say, if you were working in recruitment, what would your answer to that question be around the skills that you think you need?
Um, like the sales technique and to have that extracting of information, and like reading people, understanding their core and their motivation. And I saw, by the way, I saw in your profile that you've also did the Hogan personality
Yes.
certification, right? I did that this year. And I felt, oh my God, that's such a great starting point, because you know where you're at, and based on that you can see if you're also looking at your values, your drivers, matching that with the role, like the company culture. So for a recruiter, it's really important to understand that company culture, what they want to build, and how you can match them with the person with this or similar mind frame.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I do when people start working with me for you for three. I mean, people can work for me kind of one off, 1 month, 3 months. If it's a 3 month um, engagement, the very first thing that I get them to do is a values exercise. Because very often when we ask people what their values are, they don't know what they are, or they come up with things that they think they should have. So it's like, oh,
Yeah,
integrity is really important to me. And it's like, is it? Is
might be.
it? Or is that, are you just saying that? Or it's like, oh, I really value honesty. And then you find out that they've lied to you and you're like, well, like, not a big lie, but it's so you're kind of going, okay, what is really at your core? So I have an exercise that almost kind of pushes people to decide on some stuff, and just to, it kind of takes them in a, it almost shaves off, and they just have to kind of pick two, and so they come up with 7 values, and that is really great in terms of the job market, because it helps them to really understand, okay, so from this list of 7, where were, so let's take your last job, of these 7 values that you've identified, were these being like fulfilled? Because like your value is something that you kind of need to feed. Were you feeding that in your last job? And they were kind of like, oh, this one, yes, no, oh, that one, no. Like the thing that was number 2 is like, oh God, no. And then you look at the job before and you get them to do the same thing again. And they almost have this light bulb moment where they go, oh my God, that's why I hated that job. Because
Yeah.
when something is really going against your values, we have this expression that like grinds your gears, like literally, like you can feel this tension, which is like this, which is, so one thing for me is punctuality is a huge value of mine. Now, when people are late for stuff, it drives me crazy because it's really important to me, and it like literally grinds my gears, and I get maybe overly um, irritated by it because it's so important to me, because it's, for me, it's a sign of respect. Now, my husband's family are all from Mauritius, where they are a little bit more relaxed about timekeeping. His stepdad is British, so it's kind of, so it's interesting because him and I are always ready on time, and then we're like, okay, where is everyone? But it's really important, like before you can use this in the recruitment space as well. It's like, I work with my clients and I get them to think about, okay, so if these are your values, then think about what types of organizations really have these values at their core, or the way that they behave will feed your values. Because if you're a very creative type person, then a very traditional company is probably not going to be the place for you. If you have innovation as a key value, or change or provocativeness as a key value, then those like companies like Marks and Spencers, John Lewis, British Airways, as much as they think they're creative, they're not. They're traditional, they're risk averse, they're really safe. You're not going to thrive there. So it's about, where are you going to thrive? So it's almost like this symbiotic thing, which is, where are you going to be brilliant? Where are you going to be able to be brilliant? And who's going to provide that kind of environment for you to feed your values? And a lot of people forget that bit in terms of career coaching. They go straight to like, right, let's get your CV, let's do your LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. It's like, actually, no. Hit pause, take a step back. What's really important to you? Where are you really going to thrive? Let's get that figured out, because when a job presents itself, you can go back to your values and almost use that as like a checklist to say, okay, what do we think? Okay, it's going to serve 5 out of 7. Okay, so the other 2 on there, how are you going to feed those other 2 values? So for me, creativity is one thing. I worked at BA for 20 years. It's not a creative business, but I fed my creativity through amateur dramatics, through taking a patisserie course, for example. It's like you might not get all of those from your job, so where else can you get them? It's a really good starting.
Exactly. And also for people looking to join the recruiting space as a recruiter, is also important to understand that, right? When they choose either they're going for this employer or for this employer based on who they are as a person and their personality, with the values, the drivers, the motivators, very important. Otherwise, especially in the beginning, if you don't have the best experience, you are set for major disappointment. And why not starting on the right foot?
Yeah, but all of those times where I was taking part in a Q&A for people leaving the services last week, the armed services, and somebody was saying like, oh God, I just don't want to get it wrong. And it's like, there's no right or wrong. So it's like, I think people panic so much nowadays. And I work with a lot of students who are about to leave university, and it's like, they're so like tense, anxious about getting it right. And I'm like, there's no right or wrong. So, and actually, you don't know if it's the right job or the wrong job until you're really in the job. You can take a best guess based on all of the stuff we talked about, like your values and your experience. But actually, if it's there's no such thing as right or wrong. It's different consequences. So if it's the wrong job, then you're going to probably leave there quite soon. But what you'll have done is you'll have learned that job, that company is like off your list, and that will give you red flags as you move through your career. Likewise, if you're with a team that you just don't get on with, there's a personality clash, what you'll have learned is how to get along with people who are not like you. So it's like, there's no right or wrong. You will learn some stuff. And if you're 19, 20, 21, leaving university, or, having done a master's or something, you're 26, you're going to be working till you're 80. So you've got time to try stuff out, and you're going to have a few different careers. This is what all the textbooks are telling us right now. You're going to have 2 or 3, 4 careers in your life. So there's no right or wrong thing. It's just going to be different consequences. And it's just like, make a decision. Making a decision is like, the wrong decision is better than no decision. So just make a decision, go with it, go commit to that. And if it's not right for you, go and make another decision and go and do something else. But don't spend time worrying about it. Do a quick kind of analysis in your head and just decide.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on young people to get it right from the first try, because we have a lot of people to not disappoint with our choices, right? It's some kind of peer pressure or pressure from the family, like you have one shot to make it in life, and the reality, you have more. Right? Yes.
You're going to be working till you're 80. You've got loads of chances to have a shot. And actually, it's like, no one else is living your life, right? You are living your life. You can't live your life for your parents or your peers or your colleagues or whatever. And you can't use their judgment to measure your success. It's like, the ultimate person you have to be with, introverted or extroverted, is yourself, right? You have to like yourself. And if you're, irritated at yourself because you've taken this job because your parents wanted you to, or you thought that was the right thing to do, then the person that's going to be unhappy is you. It's like, do what you want to do, just do what you want to do. You've got to live your life.
Because we have only one.
Exactly.
As far as we know so far. Great. Yeah, definitely. And it's such a useful point of view and perspective, like helping other people relax a bit about the intensity we put on our decisions, like to make the right decision. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I feel it's a major point in the
make the decision and move on.
Yeah.
There's an interesting book, actually, if I know you like reading, Anna. There's a guy called David Taylor, and he has a book called The Naked Leader. There's a few books in the series, and one of the things that he talks about is true decisions. So he talks about this in the sense of a business team, a sort of leadership team. It's like, you have a meeting and you make a decision, and it's like, okay, is this a decision or is this a true decision? So is it at the next meeting you're then going to kind of go, oh, last week when we talked about this marketing campaign and la la la, it's like, no, hang on, true decision, we made it. So it's like, start to make true decisions, like, and stick with them. If it's almost like, oh, stick with them, it's like commit to them. So you've made a decision, put the wheels in motion to get like the next bit happening. If it's not the right thing for you, then make another true decision. But stop this like flick-flacking kind of thing. It's exhausting. It's just exhausting. I've had a number of friends recently who've had to make the decision about whether to accept redundancy packages from airlines. They've been with the airline 23, 25, 35 years, some of them. It's a massive change, and it's like, just make a decision. Either, hit the button and accept it, or, shred the letter. And that means like, no, you're staying. But, make a decision rather than letting the clock run out. So there was one example where it's like, the offer expired at this time on this date. It's like, letting the clock expire is not making a decision. That's letting someone else make the decision.
Exactly.
And that's giving away your power. So either you accept it or you decline it, but you make the decision and you stand by that, whatever the consequences are.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank
I feel like
you
I'm
so
on my
much.
soapbox today.
So what's next for you?
Wow,
what's this year
next?
gonna look for you? What do you have in next?
Oh my God, it's interesting because the other day I've got a big wall planner over there, and 2020 was the first year where I've actually gone, right, I'm going to plan all my trips, because my business is kind of off running now, and I was like, all right, I'm going to plan all my trips. So I had trips here, trips there, and literally I've been erasing them, like the by trip, month by month. And the other week I actually just erased the end of 2020, and I'm like, right, I'm going to start again. So what I have coming up, I am going, fingers crossed, to Mauritius for like most of December, which is so exciting. So December's kind of quiet in my business, and so just erasing December from a work perspective. I'm running a 5-day challenge starting on the 7th of September. So whenever you're listening to this, that's 2020. 7th of December, which is going to be helping senior level job seekers to start to develop their job search strategy, really by identifying their strengths and how they fit in today's job markets. There'll be a bit of value stuff in there. So that starts on the 7th. And then my last project of 2020 is going to be, I'm going to write another ebook, all about cover letters, because I've got one on CVs that sells really well. People love it. The bit that is missing is the question then is, how do I write a cover letter? So I have collated heaps of cover letters, like ones I've written, kind of pretty standard ones, kind of some funny ones, some ones for different scenarios. So that will be coming out before I go to Mauritius, that's for sure. So around October time will be when that will be out. That will be exciting.
That's so nice. Definitely. Once you have the link, let us know. We'll put it in the show notes for everybody to have a chance to look, if it's of interest, of course.
Okay, I'll send you the link to my CV ebook as well.
Yes, please do that. Super excited for it. Cool. So where can people find you?
So LinkedIn is where I hang out. So my name is that one that's there. Jane Ferré is the easiest way to say it. So that's where I am. There's, I think, not many of me. If you want to head over to my website, it's my name. It's janeferré.com, and everything is there. Links to my ebooks, online courses, links to book a call with me. If you want to start working with me, then I have right now I have a couple of slots opening up, and they open up kind of throughout the year. But I keep I only work with 3 people one-on-one at any one time. So I'll book a call and let's see if I'm free.
Awesome. Perfect. Definitely we'll share all your information in the show notes.
Thank you.
Great. I think our time is...
I know I've been chatting so long. Thank you, Anna. It's been great.
Flew by, right? Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
It's fantastic. Thank you for having me, and well done you for getting this podcast out. I think it's fantastic. So
Thank you
congratulations.
so much. Thank you.